Hey folks, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge, and we're going to take a look at the Kershaw Showtime today. I'm going to be right up front with you guys. I got this knife, month and a half, almost 2 months ago, I think, from the owner of IntegrityKnives.com, a new Canadian knife store, maybe say young Canadian knife store. And, he contacted me and we started a relationship, and there's very few Canadian knife stores to start with, but there are a few, and there's some very popular ones. So it's hard to start a new knife store. The knife industry in Canada is much smaller than it is in the United States. So it's not only that our population is 1/10 the size of you guys in the States. Most of my viewers are from America. But it's also that our numbers per capita are less as well. So there's less knife shops. That's one of the reasons why knives cost more in Canada, because a store owner has to buy knives to bring in, but his stuff is going to move more slowly, which means for him to make a living, the prices have to be a bit more than they are in the United States. There's other reasons as well. But this guy, he's got, actually for the best price in Canada that I could find, the Showtime, but it's one of the budget Kershaws. And there's a reason why you don't see very many Kershaw reviews on my channel. The last one I did was actually a couple of years ago. It's the same reason that we have for not so many Gerbers. You saw the Gerber review just 2 videos ago. They're not made that well. This is a made in China Kershaw. And I think it's probably made in the exact same factory. You've got the same hex pivot screw right here. It's made better than the Gerber that I just reviewed, better than the Air Ranger. The Showtime is an improvement on that. It's got better steel, and it has less problems with the knife itself. So I'm going to do the review on this guy, but I'll tell you right up front, I'm not recommending this knife. And I'll tell you the pros, I'll tell you the cons, and I'll give you all the what for. Before we get into the tabletop part, it's not that I'm anti-Gerber or anti-Kershaw. It's pretty much all of the American knife companies, the classic American knife companies, the ones that are over 20 years old. Schrade, Kershaw, SOG, CKRT, Gerber, Camulus, the list could go on and on. Almost all of them make pretty decent fixed blades most of the time. Almost all of them make pretty garbage folders, at least on the more budget end, almost all the time. It's just the way it is. They probably all use the same 1 or 2 Chinese factories, because you see the same types of problems over and over and over again. And they use generally pretty cheap steel, although this guy's a bit better. They just have bad manufacturing, bad quality control. It's not recommended. A lot of these knife companies have made a lot of money making knives for the military, for the United States, for Canada, for other militaries around the world. And they're resting on those laurels, my opinion, with their folding knives. And so many of their folding knives are just... Some of them are complete garbage, like my Gerber Air Ranger that I had. I'm not saying that all Gerber Air Rangers are bad. I have to review the one that's in front of me. And I'm not saying that all Kershaw Showtimes are bad. I've seen some good reviews of these a few years ago. But I have to review the one that's in front of me. And so I'm going to review this guy. I have to be honest. I don't want to say some of the things I'm going to have to say in this video, but here it is. I want Kershaw to succeed. The zero tolerance line that you guys have. You've got some really good stuff, and you know how to make good stuff. Discipline yourselves to do the same thing. Maybe you have to switch factories. Who knows, in China. But get your other knives done really well. I have to say something. I've recorded this after the rest of the video. I realized how long it is. When I get a knife that has a lot of problems with it, I tend to overtalk, and sometimes it's hard to edit out to have a smooth transitions and stuff. I'm sorry if this video is too long for you. The long and the short of it is good design, poor execution. I don't recommend it because of the problems I'm going to find. If you want to hear all the information about why, watch this video. It's a little extra long, but hopefully it's good. All right, let's start with a size comparison with my Ontario Rat 1. Yes, this is a smaller knife indeed. I'd call this a mid-size folder, and this is a full-size folder. It's actually on the big size of a full-size folder. So yeah, it's bigger, it's thicker, it's a bigger knife. So no, it's not like the Rat 1. It's probably pretty close to the size of a Rat 2. I don't have a Rat 2 here anymore, but it's about that size. We've got a 8CR13 MOV stainless steel blade. No problems there. I don't mind 8CR13. It's a decent steel. Rockwell hardness is usually 57, 58, which is up there. For a budget knife, that's quite nice. You know, a lot of premium steels are 60. So, you know, 58, sometimes even 59 on 8CR13 is not unheard of at all. Quite common. They've done black oxide on the bevel here. This is a hollow grind, and on the swedge. And then you've just got a satin flat there. You've got steel frame lock. They don't even claim that it's stainless steel. I wish it was. You know, even Standard & New, they tell you they're using stainless steel. They even tell you what steel it is. Often they've used 420 stainless steel for their handles. Not really liking that they just use steel here. If they use stainless steel, great, but I doubt it. Now, I haven't rubbed anything against this steel, although I've got a little bit of wear already right there on the black oxide. You can just barely see it. Right there. You know, not a problem. It's holding up okay, so I'm not going to fault the coating. You've got a drop point blade. Like I said, hollow grind, nice belly, nice straight section here. Sharpener's choil is too small. It terminates before the plunge ends, and I'll show you details of that in just a little while. We've got jimping on the spine, and the pivot screw. It's not a free spinning pivot screw, which is good. This hex end here fits into a hex-shaped hole, which is perfect. So this one's not going to spin freely, unlike what happened on the Gerber, but it looks the exact same size, probably the same factory. And on this end, you know, you've got the sort of pattern there, but it's got a T8 screw there. We've got a stop pin that's just sort of nested in there. It's fairly short. It doesn't even come close to, you know, the surface or the outside of the frame here, which I wish it did. I wish it was longer this way, because then I'd be more sure that it wouldn't, you know, start to break. But I can't say that I've experienced any problems with it yet, so can't complain about that yet. It's already getting marked up. We've got the body screws back here. They look like they're thread spools. The shape, that's actually kind of cool. I kind of like that. This is a bit different. I like that. This one here, the piece fell off now, but I've still got it. It came with a piece of, I don't know what to call it, a piece of the milling. When they milled out that center section, was loose in there and sharp, and it caught my finger and it broke off, and I've still got it. Yeah, here, I'll show you the pictures of it right now. Yeah, that's not that great, but it's not terrible. But you can see that's shiny, and these all look like they're bead blasted. If we take a look at the two of them at the same time, see that? So this is shiny, and that's because that loose piece was protecting it. We've got inset screws here. They are supposed to be T6. Actually, let's measure them right now. Here's a T6. Oh, wait, that screw's just loose, and I haven't even checked it yet. It was just easy to unscrew by hand. The first one that I tried. Let's see if this one is. That's actually a very tight fit. I like that. There's not a lot of slop in there. So that's a good thing. Yeah, I like that. And these screws, same. So these screws have a better fit than the Gerber screws did. Now let's see the T8 over here. Oh, that was just totally loose. No wonder I had so much blade play. There's still some blade play side to side when I've snugged it up a little bit. The blade centering is good now, but it was not good out of the box. And during my testing, it must have been just loose. I don't try to adjust or change things when I'm testing. I want to test and review the knife the way it came to me. And so I don't do any maintenance on it. I do nothing on the knife when I'm preparing for my review and for my testing. It's got an assisted spring in there and a little bit of jimping right there, just to help a little extra traction, and it flies out. There's a speed safe assist or whatever they call it. See, already the blade centering is way off already. And I already snugged it up once. There we go. It's still a little bit side-to-side blade play. Tighten it up a bit more. Oop. Sorry about that extra noise. I dropped the screwdriver. Yeah. So now it's too tight for it to actually open up all the way. So if I have it loose enough that it can open all the way, then there's blade play. A fair bit, actually. So I don't like that. Cutting edge, it actually was reasonably sharp. It cut quite well. The stuff that I tried cutting, I was cutting cardboard. I cut some plastic stuff, some rubber stuff, some rope that I have. It's not sisal rope, but it's a grown fiber. It's not a man-made polyester rope. It cut okay, not too bad. Not great, but not too bad. Pocket clip. Let's talk about that. It's a deep carry pocket clip, right and left. So that's a good thing. You got both options. It's an odd looking pocket clip, but that's okay. It's a stubby pocket clip. It's got the button screws. It went in and out of my pockets fairly well, not a big problem. It wants to climb over the edge, and it's fairly tight in there. It kind of resists. You have to sort of go past, and then once it's in, it sits there. It hides the knife well. I don't like having the white Kershaw letters in there. So the pocket clip's not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible, but since it's right at the edge of this milled out section here, on this side, I tested it on this side. It performed a whole lot better going in and out of the pocket. It just seems like the pants want to catch on that lip right there of the relief section that's been cut out for the frame lock arm for the right-handed use. Not too bad. The next thing that I want to mention is take a look at this big wide track. It's about 1/8 of an inch. So they've had something that they used to cut it out. I'm not sure exactly what technology they used, but 1/8 of an inch cutout. That's just crazy. Here, let me go get one of my Ganzos. I just thought of this right now. Check that out. This is a frame lock. There's the frame lock arm. Look how wide that trench is, and look how that's a hair thick there, less than a hair thick. They use wire EDM to cut it out, much cleaner, much smaller relief cut here. And what else? There's no over travel stop here. So I can easily, if I get my thumb behind there, push this arm too far, and then the spring is going to get wore out and it'll probably break in there somewhere if I push it out too far. This guy's I think you can still get this one, the G742, maybe not. You know, this little wheel here, this round thing, that's an over travel stop, so you can't push it any further than that. And that protects it. It's just a much nicer knife for about a third the money. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this guy. So I don't like the over travel. I don't like the big trench of a hole here. Like it shows off, you can see the washer right there, the nylon washer. You know, that's just messy workmanship, messy execution of the design. Todd Rexford did a good design here. I like the general design of this Showman, the Showtime, not the Showman. It's got some good things going for it. It's got a good look to it, but the execution's just not quite there. Let's talk about the complaints I have of the blade. The jimping up here is a little bit sharp. I didn't hurt myself with it, but it's a little sharp to be comfortable. I'd like that to be a little gentler, the jimping there. The only other big thing about the blade, other than the sharpening, is the sharpener's choil is way too small. Take a look. I'll give you a close-up shot of the blade kind of like this. You can see this shiny part. That's where they've sharpened. And the sharpening has to go up the plunge, up the hill before it ends, which means if you follow the cutting edge, you've got a triangle of black steel that's flat right there. You can't cut yourself with the last, it's a bit less than 1/8 of an inch, but the last section here isn't sharp at all. So when I go to sharpen this knife on my sharpening system, it's going to make a mess of this plunge area. Focus. This plunge area is just going to get ugly and messy when I try to sharpen it. Because that brings me to the sharpening. The sharpening on this done, I'm going to say it's done just as poorly as that Gerber is. The grind angle's all wonky, and it changes along the length of the blade quite dramatically. I'll go over those measurements a little bit later. I'll give you the exact specs in a little while. But the general shape of this blade, the design of this blade, awesome. I really like it. It's a nice blade shape, a nice blade design. Weight of this knife, 108 grams, 3.8 ounces. That's good. The factory sharpness, and that's measured 1 inch up from the sharpness choil. Most people do most of their cutting about 1 inch up. 195 BESS. 200 and less is considered sharp. Most of the knives I review have the low 100s, so it's worse than the average knife that I review, but not terrible. Now for the measurements. Cutting edge length is 7.33 centimeters, 2.886 inches. Blade length, a tiny bit more, 7.425 centimeters, 2.923 inches. So under 3 inches for those people with those kind of laws, so that's good. The blade thickness, 2.46 millimeters, 0.097 of an inch. That's about 3/32, well under 1/8. The blade depth, and I measured 1 inch up from the sharpener's choil, 2.08 centimeters, 0.819 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind at that same spot, 0.65 millimeters. That's 25.5 thousandths. The blade thickness at the belly is just a little bit more. It's 0.75 millimeters, 30 thousandths of an inch. And then here at the tip, it is 1.2 millimeters, 47 thousandths of an inch behind the grind. So it's a very thick tip. It means it's less likely to break on you, but it's a thick tip. No jokes down there, guys. This is a clean channel, and I have people who let their kids watch my channel. So let's talk about the grind angles now. Measured 1 inch along again. The grind angle, 16.4 degrees, 26.3 degrees over here. Not so good. Here on the belly, 11.7 degrees here, 29.5 degrees here. And it's even worse at the tip. At the tip, it's up to almost 34 degrees on this side. And on this side, it's just over 11 degrees. Lots of variability. And right here, close to the choil it's really, really bad. The grind angle's even worse. Usually I just mention a grind angle at one spot and I say if it's variable along the blade or not, but this is just terribly sharpened. It's a little bit sharp, but when I go to sharpen this knife and get a consistent 20 degrees per side, I'm going to have to take off a lot of steel. I've even got a close-up picture of this part right here, how I measured it. I put this on the sharpening system, and I put a black marker, and I put it all over the cutting edge bevel, the grind here, and you rub it along on a given angle, and where it clears the paint right off, or the marker off, from the cutting edge to the very shoulder, so where it turns black, if it takes off all the ink on the whole stretch, then you match the angle. If it only takes off some of the ink right at the very cutting edge, that means your angle's too steep. It's a little more shallow than that. And if it takes off paint just on the heel, right next to the black bevel, that means you don't have the adjustment quite steep enough yet. And so you can see there's a tiny little spot, about a 32nd of an inch wide. And then just beside it, the angle's steeper, and just beside it on the right side, it's more shallow. That's a lot of variability. Usually you only see that over the course of 1.5 inches or something. You see the angles changing. And when it's done right, you don't see it along the whole length of the blade. Talking about the handle now, the handle length, not counting the pocket clip, which sticks out a little bit extra, handle length is 10 centimeters exactly, 3.937 inches. The grip area between my thumbs, it's right around 8 centimeters, just over 3 inches. The thickness of the handle, not counting the pocket clip, is 1.06 centimeters. That's 0.4175 inches, so not bad. The handle depth, it's biggest right here, if you don't count the flipper tab here. 2.63 centimeters, 1.035 inches. When the knife is closed, the widest spot is right here at the jimping. That is 2.81 centimeters, 1.106 inches. And the total length of the knife when the blade's deployed, again, not counting the pocket clip sticking out, is 17.41 centimeters, 6.854 of an inch. So not bad. The proportions are pretty good. And the balance point is pretty much where this body screw is. So that's not bad. How much does this knife cost? Well, IntegrityKnives.com has got the best price in Canada, $55.99 Canadian. Warriors and Wonders is $4 more, $59.99. In the United States, on Amazon, this guy is $27.96. So $28 US for this. Yep, the Americans get better prices, but I already talked about that and why. In Europe and the UK, Knives and Tools has got pretty good prices, 47.95 euros or 40 British pounds. So you can get it pretty much anywhere you want. And now, before I go over the things I don't like, I'm going to take it apart for the first time. And I might even do this on air or while I'm recording it. So that came out pretty good. There's no Loctite in here. That's a good thing. But this guy needs some Loctite. Actually, thread mate is what I like. The Vibratite VC thread mate. That's my favorite material. But I will be testing. I sent out a little questionnaire on a little post if you guys wanted me to do a video on reviewing Vibratite's VC3 as compared to Loctite's blue stick. So this just fell out here. So there's a washer in there. That belongs in there. That's a clear white plastic washer, hard washer. And let's take this out. And then there's also a thin phosphor bronze washer on this side. And on this side, it's that white nylon washer. Very oily in here, not a bad thing. This is, I hit it before on you before. This is the spring for the speed assist. The spring goes into the hole on the tang of the blade right there. That tip goes in there. and that's how it actuates. This is going to be a little bit putting it together, so I'll probably do this off camera because I need to move the camera so I can just have better access. Okay, I got it back together without much problem at all. The trick is just making sure you get the pin, the speed assist pin, lined up with the hole. So there you go. So if I've got this loose enough, like I said before, to use it, there's blade play, and it's almost touching the side there. It was touching, the blade was touching the frame before. While I was off camera, I did test it without the spring in it. The detent is very weak. If you take the spring out and use it that way, which you could do, but you know, it'll still lock up and everything, but it won't have the spring in there. You need lots of wrist action to it to make the flipper work then. The spring's doing a lot of work. Less engineering needed to make a nice smooth pivot if you add a spring. At least that's my take on why Kershaw has so many speed assist knives. It's not because, assisted is so awesome, because you've seen so many knives on this channel. They open just as fast as this. Maybe technically a few, half of a millisecond difference or something, but they open just fine. How much slower was that? It's not assisted. This guy's not assisted. How much slower was that? So it doesn't really make life a whole lot faster. So I don't like the speed assist to start with. Alignment, I talked about that. Watch this. Not touching anything. Look how far over this lock arm is. It's to the end of the blade there. And I don't know if I can show it clearly or not. Maybe on a knife that's not as black. Maybe this guy can show it a little bit better. The tang of the blade here, it ends and it's grinded on an angle like this, but really it's much more close to straight up and down, but just on a tiny, tiny angle. This one is on quite a bit of an angle, whereas most frame lock knives are just on a slight angle, just like liner lock knives, just a slight angle. This Kershaw is on a much greater angle. And because this steel is quite soft, it's already moved. It was closer to the middle when I first got it. It was a little bit off where it would stop. And just over my testing, it's finished wearing all the way over. In fact, under some of my hard testing when I was pushing it, the lock arm just got, by me squeezing my hand to do some hard cutting, it went all the way over to the side, just like that. It just touches, this arm here is touching this side here, which means it's only going to get loose now. You're going to start to get up-down blade play. I don't have it yet, but it's only going to rub that metal off and you're going to get up-down blade play. The other problem with that is when it's this close here, it's hard to get your finger behind there because you don't have nothing sticking out there to get access to. Whereas most knives, you've got some access to some steel to get your thumb in there. What can you see on this one? Just a hair. This needed to be milled down a little bit more so you get access to it, or this piece needed to come up a little bit higher to get better access. It's hard to get your thumb in there to unlock it, and it's wearing over dramatically. It was too far over brand new, and now it's too far over. Build quality is the problem with this guy. The design's good. I like the design. Size, my hands are between extra large and large, and it's just not comfortable. My pinky comes around the end of this, and when it's comfortable, I'm grabbing it like this, so not quite up to the choil. If my fingers are up here, then my pinky's landing sort of across this piece, and it's just not comfortable. left hand or right hand, and my pinky just rests on that tip edge, and I don't like that. Do you have one of these? I'm sure a lot of guys have one of these. Is yours awesome? Great. I'm happy for you. The one I got, unfortunately, I can't recommend. Thanks for liking my video. Thanks for sharing. Even if you don't like the knife, if you like the video, give it the thumbs up, please. And subscribe if you like the channel and what I do here. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, that really helps me out a lot. Although this knife was given to me, most of the knives I have to buy. I do get discounts often, but I have to buy them all. And when you live on a disability pension, money's tight. I know what it's like for a lot of you guys. I'm with you. So I would suggest save your shekels, get something other than this. Remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.